a year ago.
Okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first agenda item is a public hearing on the Grasshopper Energy proposed solar farm located at Brook Street. Before we start, I just want each person that's at this meeting to please give your name, and if you're from the town, indicate what committee or board you serve on, just so that everyone sitting in knows who's present. I'm going to start with Bill.
Bill Fournette, Conservation Commission.
Oh,
Nancy Goulart, Board of Selectmen.
James McNamara, Building Commissioner, Facilities Director.
Todd Pilling, Stormwater Agent.
Mr. Ferry.
Tom Ferry, Dayton Highway Department, Stormwater Committee.
Nick Fasandola, Level Design Group, here on behalf of the applicant for the Brook Street Solar Development.
Mr. Clark.
You're muted,
Yep,
Bruce.
done.
Excuse me, would you say that again, please?
He just told him to unmute.
Mr. Clark.
Yes, Bruce Clark, 1870 Buck Plain Road, abutter.
Maureen.
Excuse me, Maureen.
Unmute.
Sorry. Laureen Beausoleil, 1680 Pine Street, abutter.
Howard, 1680 Pine Street, abutter.
Melissa.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Melissa Shavs, 959 Dighton Wood Circle, abutter. Oh shit, I lost it.
Greg.
Francis Crisafulli, 1730 Wellington Street. I'm here regarding the Rougeau Solar Farm, which is next, and also disclose I am an associate member of the Concom.
That we have not identified or who may want to weigh in on this as an abutter or in any other capacity.
Rosalind Grassi is the office manager for the Stormwater Committee, and that's who's also there for those who don't know who she is.
Thank you. This is an open public meeting. This is a remote participation Zoom meeting. It is a public meeting being video and audio recorded for cable broadcast and internet posting on www.dayton-ma.gov and YouTube. The Zoom meeting number is 899-9348-4459. Zoom meeting password is 700810. In compliance with the latest information from the governor's office, we are all trying to maintain a safe distance and will be wearing masks when we are not speaking. I will first call on Mr. Todd Pilling to address the initial presentation on Grasshopper. Yes.
Would you like me to read the publication?
Oh, that's right, Rose. I'm sorry, Rose isn't here. Yes, please.
Well, Tom, I can just.
Good afternoon. This is the notice that was published in the local newspaper. Notice is hereby given. The Dayton Stormwater Committee will conduct a public hearing Wednesday, December 16th, 2020 at 1:15 p.m. The hearing will be held in the Old Town Hall Upper Level Meeting Room, 1111 Somerset Avenue, Dayton, Mass. 02715, on the stormwater permit application of Grasshopper Energy Group to construct a large-scale ground-mounted commercial photovoltaic solar energy facility. The array will be located at 0 Brook Street, shown on Assessors Map 16, Lot number 28. Copies of the plan are available for review in the Board of Health office, Old Town Hall, lower level, 1111 Somerset Avenue, Dayton, Mass. 02715. Anyone wishing to attend this hearing, please contact the Board of Health office for remote access information. Dayton Stormwater Committee: Nancy Goulart, Todd Pilling, William Fournette, James Aguirre, Thomas Pyers, Thomas Ferry, Timothy Rhines.
Ross, would you send a text to Tim Rhines to see if he may be trying to sign on, or if he's available? He can certainly come to the Old Town Hall if he is. And I will just mention, based that here, that announcement that was just read by Mr. Pyers was published in the Taunton Gazette on Monday, December the 7th. So I will now turn this over to Mr. Pilling.
Good afternoon. So this project here went in front of the planning board back in the end of November of 2018. As part of that project, the planning board sent it to the Stormwater Committee for comments, and I was able at the time to review the plan and weigh in on it with several things, which included test pits for determining water table and making adjustments to some of the erosion controls and the flows of water and such. Because of this, my comments were incorporated into the planning board review. So most of what you're seeing in front of you now has been reviewed by us back in 2018. Just they never filed for stormwater permit with this committee, and that's why they're here now. But in general, I am good with most of the changes we made. Obviously, we still have to listen to abutters and everything else, but they have made a lot of adjustments based on my input as we went along. So.
Nick, would you like to comment?
Sure. Would you like me to present the plans? If you can let me share the screen, I can put the plans up and kind of discuss my role and what's been going on over the last year and a half, and ever since, and what's been going on since Grasshopper has become involved with the project.
Yes, please.
Okay. So let's see.
Not muted, will you?
Okay, so as Todd had discussed previously, this project was initially permitted by the planning board and reviewed by the Conservation Commission, with permits issued, a site plan special permit by the planning board, and notice of intent with the order conditions issued by the Conservation Commission at the end of 2018. The original applicant and developer was TJA Solar, and the engineer of record at that time was Atlantic Design Engineers. My company, Level Design Group, is also an engineering firm, and we're going to be overseeing the construction of the project for Grasshopper Solar, which is why I'm involved today. Atlantic will not be part of the process moving forward, but we're presenting the Atlantic design plans because no changes have been made to the proposed plans to date, specifically regarding the stormwater management system and erosion controls for the site. So just as a quick overview, just to get everybody reoriented to the project, I'll go over a brief overview. So the site is located in this general area. This is Brook Street, and Brook Street ends at the intersection of Pine Street, which turns right. We're right at this corner right here. The development itself is approximately, the 10 acres plus or minus on a 20-acre parcel. So the disturbed area will be approximately 10 acres, with about 8.8 acres of that being the solar array facility, and the remaining disturbance for site grading, stormwater basins, and gravel access driveway, which enters the site over here at Pine Street and comes up and around and loops around the back here. The gravel driveway area is about a half acre, so we got about 22,000 square feet of gravel combined with the land disturbance associated to construct the proposed solar array and stormwater basins. There's two main stormwater basins as reviewed and approved by Planning and Conservation. We have a stormwater basin in this area, which accepts overland surface runoff from roughly this portion of the site right here as it kind of breaks. There's a natural grade break through here. And the remainder of the surface runoff comes down this area right through here in this basin near the property line on the easterly side, collects that stormwater, infiltrates that runoff. These are both infiltration basins with overflow outlets that are directed towards this area along the natural existing flow pattern, and in this area along the natural existing flow pattern. We have a large BVW in the back of the site, which we're maintaining about a 50-foot no disturb zone to where we can, as approved by the Conservation Commission. There's an isolated wetland located in this area. And there's essentially an isolated wetland with intermittent stream, which runs down the former right-of-way of Brook Street up through here. There is an approved culvert, box culvert style crossing in this area right here to cross the unnamed intermittent stream, which runs through this wetland. Erosion controls are proposed along the bottom of the slopes surrounding the proposed project. They run roughly in this area right through here, down through here, and up along the back of the site along the edge of the BVW. They're proposing, or what's been approved is an 18-inch mulch sock, which is a very heavy duty form of erosion control. Most mulch socks that you see are typically 12 inches. So that extra weight will help hold the sock in place and prevent any type of sediment from running off of the property. As discussed, Todd kind of went through the initial description. Their initial plan that was submitted in 2018 had a few revisions. There were 2 updates to the stormwater report done by Atlantic to address Todd's concerns at the time. So, Atlantic did provide the required documentation, and there was a formal written response to comments by Todd. At that time, I believe everything was satisfied, which is why the planning board voted to approve the special permit back in 2018. One of their conditions, which was placed on this project, was no building permit could be issued until the Stormwater Committee review and approve the project. So essentially, I think TJA, without being the developer for this project, kind of let that fall by the wayside and didn't quickly follow up with a permit application to the Stormwater Committee, which is why we're here today to button up that permitting and make sure everything complies with the Stormwater Committee's regulations. But in general, that's a brief description of the project and our involvement with the project. And I'll take any questions. I know some members of the Stormwater Committee are on the Conservation Commission and Planning Board. And there has been some discussion with regards to a minor modification to the driveway entry. I can discuss that now or afterwards if the committee would like to hear what Grasshopper is proposing in this area for a minor modification to the driveway. I'll leave that up to you guys if you guys want me to discuss that now, or we can discuss that at a further point. In general, that's not going to affect any of the stormwater management features of the site or erosion control features of the site. It's essentially revolving around issues with National Grid and this utility pole right here specifically. This pole, based on this plan that was approved, is set to be relocated to this area. But after National Grid did some additional studies in the area, they have determined that it's a lot of work to move that pole, as it carries the primary feed for Brook Street and Pine Street in this section of the neighborhood. And, they're requesting of us to do what we can to allow that pole to remain in that location. So that's the kind of the backstory on why we're looking to modify this this driveway right here. In essence, we're looking to reduce this width to 18 feet versus 25 feet, which it is right now. That will still provide enough access for fire and safety vehicles and enough width for access for National Grid vehicles to access their utility poles, which are these 4 poles that are associated with the proposed solar array. Those contain the system transformers and other equipment that National Grid installs for the interconnection of the project. So that's all I have for now, and I'll leave it up to the board for any questions or comments.
So we'll probably go back to that and just ask you to explain that part when he gets here. It's Mr. Tim Rhines, okay? In the meantime, do any members of the Stormwater Committee have questions for Nick? Or wish to comment?
Yeah, I do, if I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Ferry.
So back to your culvert, I know you're gonna redesign it, and that's probably where most of my interest is also. Along with, I'm to assume you're probably gonna end up moving it to the south a little bit. I'm interested in make sure you're not gonna change the elevation of that apron going into what used to be the right of way. And also make sure it stays big enough so because if there's any damming, it's gonna affect the abutter to the north. So we want to make sure that's going to still receive the water enough, but yet not interfere with any ingress to the solar field or that right away.
Sure, Tom. So in essence, I have another plan here that kind of details that a little bit further. So the overall size of the culvert, so its capacity to pass water through it, isn't going to be changed. It would be the effective length of that culvert. So the opening or the openness of that culvert would remain the same. It would just be reducing the length of that culvert from, which is shown here in blue, 25 feet to 18 feet. That way, that allows us to keep this utility pole in this area right here. National Grid would have to, re-guide this pole to likely a new pole in this area, but overall it seems like a doable situation for National Grid in order to keep that pole. We'll be keeping the same, roughly the same apron. We would just tie that apron in a few feet shorter. So this blue line is where the gravel apron currently ties into Brook and Pine Street, right at that intersection. We would just move that to here And so vehicles, could still enter the main driveway through this 18-foot wide access right there. Overall, the access throughout the main portion of the site necks down to 12 feet as currently approved through the main gravel driveway. So it goes from 25-foot width right here as shown in the blue line. This is the approved line. And what we're proposing is 18 feet, and that will eventually neck down to the approved 12-foot width right in that area.
Right, so it sounds like that the culvert alignment needs to stay there so it doesn't change the natural flow of the intermittent stream. That's what you're saying. So you want to leave it right where it is, basically just narrow the width.
That is correct. Yeah, just leave it in its exact location, keep the same grades, and just reduce the length by a few feet. I don't, I went through the permitting documents. I didn't see any reasoning why it was so wide to begin with, especially when the driveway necks down to 12 feet, less than, 80 feet into the site. It really, as far as overkill and additional wetland disturbance to install that culvert, it seemed like a little bit of overkill in that area. But, that's something we still have to run by the planning board and make sure that they have no comments or opposition to that proposed minor modification.
Thank you. That's it at this time.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, just for a moment, normally the Stormwater Committee does site walks, and this might be something that would be better viewed when we're on site, as well as obviously we need the planning board input in it too, but I think being on site might be clearer to understand what's actually happening out there, if we decide to do a site walk.
I think we're going to have to do one when the snow melts, or if we don't get snow. Mr. Aguirre?
Everyone, James Aguirre. Yeah, I have a lot to say about this particular matter, but I'll defer those until Mr. Rhines gets here so that we can get some input from the planning board's perspective. If you know, Nick, is this a ballasted type installation, or are we putting screws, actually subterranean activity?
So the approved, I'll take you to the sheet that shows the details for the approved culvert. So this is what was designed and approved, designed by Atlantic and approved by the Conservation
Nick,
Commission.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm talking about the panel installation, Nick.
Oh, the panel installation? I'm sorry. No, those are going to be essentially screw-mounted supports. So typical racking panel system for these solar panel arrays. It's a screw-mounted racking system with 4 connection points to the ground, and those hold about 30 panels each.
Okay, so we'll have limited spoil activity because I'm concerned about siltation runoff. I know you've got the 18-inch berm, but I want to make sure there's a lot of wetlands in this area, so I want to make sure we're dealing with the silt runoff. There's going to be a lot of borings in the site.
Correct, and we'll make sure to keep up on the inspections as required by the NIPD's permit, which will be filed for this site, and the stormwater pollution prevention plan. And so there'll be bi-weekly inspections at a minimum, and after every storm event over 0.25 inches of rainfall. So that will all be monitored by Grasshopper's selected general contractor for the project. And if there are additional stormwater and erosion control measures needed due to excessive siltation, we'll definitely add those at the time. And I'll be overseeing the construction and helping those guys navigate any possible issues that would come up. So if there is an area that's seeing excessive concentrated flows or runoff after storm events, after the site's been cleared, we'll make sure to install additional erosion controls in that area, or some type of temporary berms or dikes to slow that water down as it travels through the site.
Okay, yeah, I'll be out there obviously with the building permit, so I'll make sure I report back to the stormwater agent. So if I see anything out there that we're concerned about, then certainly we'll address it at that time. But I just want to make sure you have a plan in place. Thanks. I'll defer my other questions until the planning board gets here.
Mr. Rhines is not going to be joining us. Roz just heard that he's not going to be joining us. He's going to keep going, but obviously he'll join us on the site walk. So if you want him to,
Okay. So yeah, then I will take this opportunity. So I understand the reasoning for the proposal you recommending or suggested with the National Grid's input. My problem is that you're narrowing the entrance as such that may prohibit us from entering if we were heading westbound on Brook Street. And that's a grave concern. Obviously, if we're responding to anything there, we want to make sure that we don't have to send apparatus around through Center Street and then in through Pine Street because we can't make that turn. The other thing is, I can't go back in time. I'm a little, I don't like seeing the access way so narrow, but it's there. These solar fields need to be maintained. We need to have people there at various times of the year doing vegetation assessment and perhaps mitigation. So where are these vehicles going to park? Because we have a very narrow road, you have a narrow gate, there's no turnaround. So I would be concerned with equipment, vehicles, trailers parked on Pine and Brook, and then impacting the flow of traffic. In the other solar arrays farms that we have, there's adequate parking area or pull-off areas for such equipment. I don't see any of that here.
So to speak to that, there is a turnaround located in the back of the array in this area. I don't anticipate any maintenance vehicles parking within the town right away to maintain the site. They would access the site via the gravel driveway, and these maintenance crews would essentially park within the gravel driveway, pull off to the side a little bit in the areas where they need to do their maintenance. But maintenance on these sites, it's not, once these sites are up and running, the maintenance is very infrequent. Maybe once or twice a month, maintenance crew will come through there. They typically like to let the vegetation grow into a meadow style height, 3 to 4 feet high, if possible. They only cut it when that vegetation is going to interfere with the bottom of the arrays. And these array racking systems, they sit up a few, about 4 feet high. So probably the area is going to be cut maybe once or twice a season, if that. And then other maintenance is, this system's fully remote. So if a panel goes down or there's an issue on the site with a solar panel, a sensor will go off, and they'll send a crew out to replace that panel. But for the most part, there isn't going to be a lot of site traffic, and any vehicles that need to access the site will come in through the project gate along the front and perform their site maintenance activities on the premises and not be within the right of way.
Okay. So obviously, I'm going to recommend the planning board hear this as a modification because it has, I think, larger impacts than what's been noted. We also have a 20-foot requirement for NFPA. So I know that we are proposing a 12-foot gravel pathway in some areas, or as narrow as 12 foot. I'm presuming that you are going to clear and have hard pack on each side of the gravel way. Is that true?
I believe so, as it was approved by the planning board during the site plan special permit. There is, the panels don't go all the way up to the edge of the gravel driveway. There is additional room on either side of the gravel driveway. But, I believe those are all items that would have been and should have been addressed as part of the site plan special permit. Now, with regards to the proposed modification and having a proper fire apparatus turning radii into the site, if you can provide truck information, I can model that in AutoTurn and, do the proper analysis on this driveway for a specific vehicle, we'd be more than happy to provide that to you and to the planning board to take a look at as part of the modification process. But, as far as stormwater, I don't think that has any bearing on today's application with regards to the stormwater management permit. But we would like to further that conversation with you with regards to access and, demonstrate that proper access can be provided coming up Brook Street and making that left-hand turn into the site.
Well, actually, it is relevant because you're proposing to change a culvert that does work with stormwater. So I just want us all to be on the same page. That's how this committee works. We find that it works well when we include the other departments. So that's how we're going to continue to do our diligence. Now, with that said, I don't have any other concerns. I have been in communication with the stormwater agent. He said that you've been very forthright with his comments and made the changes as necessary through the years. So other than that, I don't have any issues. Thank you.
Does anyone else from the committee wish to speak?
Phil, anything to say?
Mr. Barry, did you hear anything you want to ask or reply to?
Oh, Tim Rhines might be joining us.
Did we lose Mr. Barry?
Hold on, I'll tell you in a sec. I don't think so.
Oh, I see him. Oh, he's muted.
What was the question?
Have you heard anything you wish to comment on or add to or anything else?
No, not at this time.
Okay, I have a question. In visualizing this, I'm very familiar with that square corner. I've been on Brook Street when it's been a river, not an intermittent stream. I mean a river. How do you control that amount of water that's going to come barreling down Brook Street from Audrey Lane? That's the name of that sort of road, Audrey Lane. How is that going to be controlled so that under normal circumstances, which at times could be a flood, it would not increase and that there would not be additional erosion because of the construction along Audrey Lane as that water comes rushing out of the woods down Brook Street?
So all those factors are taken into account in the stormwater management report and calculations. As you can see through this section right here, within the former right-of-way, there is no proposed land clearing or disturbance to that channel. The only work is in this area right here where we have the proposed crossing. So, in theory, everything is going to work as it does today. Any water which is running down that intermittent stream is going to continue to do so. And, there is no increase in flow from this project to that area. And, that channel itself is very narrow, a couple feet wide and a couple feet deep. And, the proposed culvert to, comply with the state standards for openness is 14 feet wide and is about 5 feet high. So it's a very large culvert for a small channel. It's essentially bridging that channel. So these two footings are going to be installed on the outside of the banks of that culvert, of that channel. And this three-sided box culvert is going to sit on top of that. And, with the openness that's provided, there's no possible chance that this culvert is going to impede the flow of that small, narrow channel.
Well, in a heavy rainstorm, will the water continue to flow down Audrey Lane, down Brook Street?
Correct. That flow path is going to remain exactly as it is today.
Okay, is the north side of your project, whatever that boundary is there some kind of vegetation or something else so that if it's bigger than the 10-inch rainstorm that I remember was the worst one a while ago, there will not be erosion that would be caused by an overflow from Audrey Lane over to your property, so that there would be erosion and wash away and more mess on Brook Street?
I don't believe so. Like, as detailed in the stormwater report, the flows, the proposed flows are less than or match the pre-existing flows. So the existing flow today.
Right.
No additional work is being done to this channel to increase its capacity or make any additional modifications, as we don't have rights. We only have rights to 20 feet off the edge of our property, as this portion of the right-of-way has been abandoned. So there's no proposed disturbance through here, and we're not changing this flow path and capacity of this swale as it exists today. The only work being done, so the water comes down through here and travels in its natural flow channel as it does today, and that's going to continue to happen after the project is built.
I understand that. My only concern was your north boundary. It's sufficiently south of Audrey Lane so that we got a gully washer on Audrey Lane. There is enough natural protection of your north boundary so that there would not be erosion.
So are you speaking of this boundary or this boundary here?
I'm not saying battery, I'm saying boundary.
Yeah, but he wants to make sure you're referring to that one, along Audrey Lane.
Audrey Lane, your boundary on Audrey Lane would be your north boundary.
Correct, yes. So yeah, there's as far as site flows from the project, everything's directed interior to this area is directed towards the stormwater basin here. There's a small swale which picks up any surface runoff from this undisturbed area right here, and this small area that's going to get cleared between the driveway and the edge of clearing. So there's a small graded swale which keeps this surface runoff off the driveway and collects anything, and allows it to travel on its natural path into this channel here. So there is a swale that's proposed to be graded in along this side of the driveway, which would collect any surface runoff from off-site and from this tiny little disturbed area right here, and bring it into the existing channel, which exists here.
Does the gravel driveway go all the way around the project?
It does not. It ends right here. So it comes in, goes up, comes around, and then there's a turnaround provided right here.
Right. All right. Has the fire chief seen this?
I believe it was reviewed at the time of the initial permitting process back for the site plan special permit.
Will he be taking a look again if there's going to
If
be
there's a
any lots?
modification, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll be reaching out to him for his turning radii for his vehicles, so that Nick can work on that, make sure that we don't have a problem. I do have a question. Tom Perry, directly to you. It looks like the entrance and this culvert that we're discussing is in the town layout. I understand Audrey Lane is a right of way, but it looks like that is within town layout property. That means once that's installed, it's going to be ours, correct?
I brought that point up in the early stages. I don't think that's on the burden of the town to prove or answer. I think clarification does need to be made on that, and that would become a town structure also, if that is the case.
Yeah, so getting to Selectman Chairwoman Goulart's point, if we have a gully washer, which is so eloquently described, we know we're going to have a problem. And we know we're going to have a problem that goes beyond the calculations, because that 10-inch storm Selectman Goulart's referring to, I remember distinctly. That said, that means who's going to repair the culvert and the gravel washout from the roadway when the culvert backs up and the water finds its way east as it always does.
That needs to be determined, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, if the committee would like to impose a condition, I know the planning board didn't impose a condition for maintenance of the culvert, but you know, I believe a condition would be fair because we're the only people accessing over that culvert and are the only people who would be using it, that, you know, all maintenance of that structure is to be provided by the project proponent, you know, with the approval of DPW or the town's oversight, because it is in the town right away. So if
It's not that easy. It's not that easy if it's on town property. So it complicates things further because now we're talking about a structure that would be on town property that have to be an easement or some type of agreement between the town and you to do so. So, yeah, I think we'll have to have further
understand that,
discussion.
and you know, the culvert's been approved. The location, the special permit has the culvert in that location. The Conservation Commission approved the disturbance in the buffer zone. The culvert is approved. I mean, we can look back in the file and review maintenance requirements.
I'm not disputing that. This committee is charged with the maintenance of the stormwater infrastructure.
Agreed. And so, you know, as previously discussed, the culvert is essentially bridging an existing.
So that's why it's.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And how long?
Wait, pause for a second, everybody, hold on.
I think what we'll start to see as 2021 proceeds is more of the pipe corridors.
Wait. Sorry, we lost the video feed. Hold on.
That is further west of where that culvert's being put in. So, that would be over. Is it on High Street? Oh, that's up there.
Right, here it comes. Hold on.
I've been all through this.
Did we lose someone? Sorry about that. We lost our video. Feed. Okay.
Is everybody back on? Can you hear and see?
Yes,
Okay. Nick,
I have Madam Chairwoman, this is Tim Rhines. I'm in the meeting now. I have a question of the applicants, if I may.
Nick, I just want you to understand, the Stormwater Committee is not questioning what's been approved by the Planning Board or the Conservation Commission. Did we just lose it again?
No.
We're all right? The Stormwater Committee, number one, is recognized by the EPA and the DEP as the contact for everything stormwater in the town of Dayton. You name it, we're it. Because we do have responsibilities when projects are all completed by developers and builders and whatever else, we have to make sure that when we're discussing this, any possible problem that could arise, that's going to end up the responsibility of the town of Dayton and reportable to EPA or any other agency is addressed when they come up. That's why these questions are being asked. And I realize that it wasn't your company or your engineering firm that was originally involved, and I understand that it has gone through some modifications and changes. All we're trying to do is make sure that in the end, Whatever needs to be done will be done in the town of Dayton, and the Stormwater Committee is not left holding the bag, or that the Highway Department is responsible for something that we should have addressed sooner. So having said that, now I'm going to call on Mr. Tim Rhines, who is a member of this committee representing the planning board. Mr. Rhines.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just have a question of the applicants. We are due, I believe, to hear could be possibly a minor or major modification to their road entrance. And I'm just curious if this plan shows the new road entrance or the old road entrance.
So for the record, this is the current approved plan. We have presented this plan.
So I'm sorry, if I may interrupt just for a second. So what I'm asking is if you are waiting to reappear in front of the planning board, then I'm just to understand how you've had the capabilities to go to the Stormwater Committee first before the planning board has made any modifications to your application.
This plan that he submitted is dated December of 2018, if that helps at all.
So that is recent, but they have not been heard. But they have not been heard in front of the planning board yet for any possible minor or major modifications to their entrance to their solar facility. That's my point.
Yes, that is correct. And just so everybody knows the process and what we've been going, what's been going on. The driveway change, as we discussed earlier, Tim, it's coming at a request from National Grid. So they don't want to move the pole that would have to be relocated to install that size culvert. So, we submitted the stormwater permit a few weeks back, and I discussed the application procedure, to move forward. And then we heard from National Grid that there's something that has to be done with this entrance, as they don't want to move the pole, or they'll have to restudy moving the pole, and that will be a major time-consuming effort to restudy this area and possibly impact the service and to the existing electrical infrastructure out here. So in lieu of that, last week I submitted the letter and plan to the planning department requesting to have a discussion with regards to a minor modification of the driveway to not have to relocate that existing utility pole. So, timeline wise, we submitted for a stormwater permit, and then we've been going back and forth with National Grid trying to, work this situation out. And, it's kind of come to the point where, all right, they're asking us to go to the town to make this minor modification. And that kind of worked out last week, which is why the plan was submitted to the planning board last week. So yes, you are correct. The plan that's before the Stormwater Committee doesn't include this proposed minor modification to the driveway entry. But overall, there are no major modifications to the stormwater management report, site hydrology, or anything of that nature. It's more or less an access and configuration modification to the entry, which needs to be looked at by the planning board, and proper reviews need to be done to make sure emergency vehicles can enter the site safely and that proper access can be had through that area. But as far as site hydrology and stormwater and constructability of the project with regards to erosion controls, the minor modification of the entrance doesn't change any of that from the approved plan.
So I think what everybody's trying to say here is that the planning board's getting it correct with this. We're looking at it. We got to do a site walk, which obviously moves the planning board. We should do this once in one revision to make everybody happy: fire, highway, building, stormwater, planning board, and just in conservation, and just get one revision to get it all correct. So
Mr. Rhines, you all set?
Yeah, I just have one more question to the applicant. This for my own needs and purposes. Is the abutter to your southeast granting a right-of-way on this property for your driveway repositioning and access?
Right here in this area?
He
Yeah,
said southeast.
Yes, southeast.
No, the position of the driveway and this final configuration does not require any disturbance within that abutter's property, specifically the additional land granted to them from the abandonment of Brook Street to the center line of that road. So there are no easements required from any abutters.
That's what I thought. Because of the abandonment of and it draws from the middle of the road. That's what I thought. Thank you. I have no further questions, Madam Chairwoman.
May an abutter speak?
What we're going to do this for the recognize is, since there's more than one, if you would just raise your hand, and when I call on you, state your name and your street address, and then you can ask your questions or comment. So who wants to go first from the abutters?
Oh, Bruce Clark's got his hand raised.
Mr. Clark.
Yes, Bruce Clark, 1870 Buck Plain Road, here in Dayton. Couple just quick questions. When the Stormwater Committee, when they do have their walk over the property, and it sounds like it's in your plans, and the abutters be a part of that and be notified so we can walk with you? Is that appropriate?
In all honesty, I don't believe you can enter private property
Unless they allow them to.
unless the developer allows that. A committee of town officials is one issue, but private citizens entering that property, even as part of a site walk, is usually not allowed. So that's something we can check with the developer when we get a date set. But again, I can't guarantee you'd be allowed to go on that property.
Okay, I understand. I know in some real estate transactions, you have abutters walk the property with some of the committees. And that was the reason for my asking. I certainly can look over my property line and get a good view of what's going on without entering the property.
No discussion while we're there. There won't be any discussion while we're there. We're just walking it and making observations. There'll be no
Sure.
discussion by the Stormwater Committee.
That's
Do you have
fine.
anything else? You have anything else, Mr. Clark?
Just a quick question. What's the best way to get a copy of this layout? Is there a PDF available, or is it just I have to go to the town hall and review it, or?
We only have hard copies. Nick, what would you like to do?
I could send, Todd, I could send you an email of the approved plan here. That's up on my screen right now, and you could forward that along to any members of the public or.
All right, and if you can send that new culvert one so we can look at that on our end too, because we don't have even a hard copy of that, but a PDF will be fine for now.
Sure, I'll send over both the site plan and the culvert plan also.
And then Mr. Clark, if you send us an email, we can forward it to you.
That'll be great. Thank you.
Are there any other abutters who wish to speak or ask questions?
I know they're there and they'll
Yes.
probably, oh, there she is. Go ahead, you can talk.
Name and address, please.
Laureen Beausoleil, 1680 Pine Street, Dayton. What, Dayton? I have a couple of concerns. I did submit some pictures to, yes. So you are well aware of the water issue from coming down what's previously known as Audrey Lane and coming north, which is east of that property. Those were the pictures, exactly. Those were the pictures that I submitted. So that's on the south side of our property. And I appreciate very much. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, keep going.
Okay. I appreciate very much Mr. Perry bringing it to your attention that the north side is the one who would be affected by the issue of the water, because that's us. And so it's a deep concern for us, and that's what the water is with the trees there. When the trees are gone and there's more water, that's a big concern. Another question I have is, what is the size of this project?
The overall area is about 10 acres.
He said approximately 10 acres.
Right, but the megawatts or whatever you call it, the,
Oh, all right, that's different. Nick, what is the capacity, the generating capacity?
I'm sorry, it's about 3.3 megawatts, and that's DC.
okay, because I thought that it was said 2.7. I know it says 3.3 in writing, but I thought it was said 2.7.
I see an 8.7 acres, but I don't see a 2.7. Is that a conversion from AC to DC?
Okay, well, this is both the way. What we know is what Nick just told us, roughly 3.3 meg.
Okay.
DC.
Well, I know it was asked at the last meeting when it was going to be proposed that they were coming to this meeting, that the woman, whoever she was, I'm not sure who she was, said 2.7. But
That might have been AC. There's a small conversion difference. The AC wattage is less than the DC wattage, so that may have been, I can't speak for sure, but there is typically a small discrepancy when converting from the AC to the DC wattage.
okay, so maybe that was my misunderstanding. The other thing, so what happens next? Is this, have you gone on the site to check the water table or whatever it is you need to do? Has that already been done?
Yes, way back when all this started, that was one of the things that was pointed out. And we did go out to the property and dug 3 test pits, I think, in each of the locations for the drainage systems. And as a result, the drainage systems were lifted up to maintain groundwater separation.
Okay. And could I just ask the project manager or engineer, if I'm looking at the map, now we are to the north. There's I see where the water is going to be contained, but to the right of that is this long white, I don't know what it is. I believe it's to the left of the road. Yes. What is that?
Just where I have the hand right here.
Yes.
That's
yes.
just going to be that's just grass or seeded area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the driveway is to the right.
Yes.
I can zoom in a little bit more. And then the basin starts here. So this is just a constructed embankment to create this pond. So they had to move the dirt to create an embankment area, and they it looks like they leveled it off, and you're climbing up the hill. So they left a little bit of space between the edge of the pond and the constructed embankment, so water doesn't break through that area, is typically what you would do. And that's why you leave a little bit of shelf room right here. But yeah,
Okay.
that's just gonna be grass right there.
Okay, I didn't quite understand what that was. I think I'm done asking questions. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Helen, both Soleil, did you wish to ask anything?
Did you want to ask anything?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Is there any other abutter that wants to ask a question or comment on this project? I see a phone number, but I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah, who's on 5907? Can you state your name?
That is me, Timothy.
Okay.
Is there anything else? Nick, I've got one question. What you're describing as a pond, is it really a basin that's going to drain and would only have water in it for a certain period of time? Or are you really creating a pond?
No, it's there's two infiltration basins. I apologize about the language used. These are infiltration basins. They're designed with an infiltrative capacity at the bottom of the basin, so water will be seeping through the basins.
I know what an infiltration basin is. But when you said pond, it was like, whoa, wait a minute, what's that? Okay. Does anyone else on the committee wish to comment?
I think it would be prudent to do a site walk.
Okay, so let's lay out the next steps, because it looks like it's going back to the planning board anyhow for a minor review or whatever they consider. Mr. and Mrs. Beausoleil, I will just say to you, we get a gully washer, there is still going to be water running on Brook Street like it does now from Audrey Lane. This project is not going to impact that. That's a natural flow when we have a gully washer. So unfortunately, this project isn't going to slow it up or deter it or add to it. So I just want you to be aware of that.
Well, thank you. That was a big concern that any of this would interfere with that. I mean, we've lived here 40 years. We know what it's like over there. So we just don't want it worse.
I understand, but I don't want you to go out of here thinking this is a cure-all for the flooding that happens on Brook Street when we really get a bad rainstorm. So, Mr. Pilling, you want to outline the steps we're going to take next?
Yes, so we're going to continue the hearing to a date certain, and which we'll pick that date now also, but we'll do a site walk where the members of the Stormwater Committee will be at the site walk for no discussion. We'll just be observing and asking questions. The date of that site walk right now, Mr. Aguirre is on vacation, so we either need to, I'd like to maybe do it before he leaves, so that the applicant has time to maybe respond to some of the concerns that we brought up today. Because he won't be back from vacation until January 11th. And I know we got to pick another date for a meeting here too, so.
Yes, go ahead. Mr.
One
Chair.
point, we haven't named the date yet, but I just thought of something. I would like to ask Mr. Clark if we could have permission to enter through his property to see the south side of the array instead of walking however many feet in a foot of snow, you know, when we get out there. So if he wouldn't mind granting us permission, that would be wonderful. Did you hear me, Mr. Clark?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I think I got a gist of it, but just repeat it
No,
again.
sure. No problem. I was just wondering if the board or the committee could have permission to enter the south side of the array through your property, instead of walking however many 100 feet and a foot of snow.
Yeah, there's probably about 100 feet between my house and that property line, maybe a little more, but if you need to access in here, you're
That'd be
welcome.
great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Madam Chairwoman, before we wrap things up, may I just ask and make a statement, so maybe Mr. Pilling could agree with that, a statement I'm going to make. In regards to, I believe, Mrs. Bosley's question about the grass strip that's on the north side, almost abuts her property, I believe that once grass is installed there, you're going to have a situation where you're going to have more of an absorption into the soil itself, so you're going to possibly have less water runoff from the steep slope leading back down toward Pine Street and to Brook Street. Am I correct in saying that?
Wants to respond.
And I'm going to just refer everybody back to Chairwoman Goulart's comments, that this is not going to take care of the pre-existing problem on Audrey Lane. But it's the charge of this committee to ensure that no additional runoff worsens the situation on Audrey Lane. And you can be sure that we're going to do our diligence and make sure that doesn't happen. We're also going to make sure that all of the infrastructure, albeit on private or public property, is maintained according to plan. And those are all state regulations. So with that, I yield.
Billy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we are cutting down trees and putting in grass, but the way that that area is, it's directing it into his drainage basin. And most of it is being infiltrated. There is some that's running out, but the pre and the post development are unchanged after the project is completed.
So do you have any suggestions for a site visit?
Well, so Jim's back from his vacation January 11th, so anytime after that is pretty open. I don't know if you want to set a date for a meeting first and then work our way back. I mean, if we try and do the site walk before Jim leaves.
I don't want to meet again. That's just my.
Mr. Rhines, when's your hearing date?
Our hearing date, I believe, is, I'm sorry, I believe it's January 9th. I need to look at my calendar very quickly. January 6th. It is January 6th is our meeting date.
January 6th, 1/6.
Correct.
So if we were to leave after the planning board hears the modification, this committee will know exactly what was allowed, of course, with the input of the fire department and the highway superintendent. I think that would be the appropriate time following the approval of the modification to meet with this committee, because then we can actually move forward with writing up our conditions and subsequently approving the stormwater permit.
We should address that culvert at that planning board hearing.
Yeah, I'm going to recommend to the planning board through an email that they don't hear this modification without the input of the highway superintendent and the fire department. We need to determine who's going to own this and who's going to take care of it, and whether or not the fire department can get his apparati in either direction.
So if we try and do the site walk, obviously we get snow coming. But I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in January. So I don't know if we want to try and schedule a date or like say before Christmas, and then like a secondary date, like after Jim gets back, in case we can't do the site walk next week, because obviously we have to post it 48 hours in advance. So yeah, I could do that.
So the nearest, the soonest it could be done would be
December 21st. Yep, or the 22nd.
Anybody have a preference?
Well, Mondays are always miserable.
All right, so it looks like it's the
I would just say that if Mother Nature unleashes her wrath, more snow tomorrow, then maybe consider, but we can do that via email. I would assume, correct?
Yes. How's 10 o'clock in the morning on the 22nd of December?
Works for me.
I have conflicts
Nola?
that morning.
What, that morning?
I have conflicts most of that morning.
Well, then we,
So do I.
would Monday be good for you, Tom?
It would be afternoon.
Afternoon seems to be wide open.
What time?
12:30, okay?
Yes.
Sorry, what time?
Mr. Fasendola,
Yes,
how's that work?
I'm sorry.
ahead, Mr.
12:30
Ryan.
on the 22nd?
Yes.
12:30 on the 22nd is what we're kicking around. Mr. Rhines?
That works for me. That works for me, yes.
Mr. Fournette, you okay with that? Mr. Fournette's okay with it also. Well, the owner of the property isn't on this call, so the engineer is gonna have to reach out to the owner to see if we can get permission for the abutters, and we can let the abutters know if they'll be allowed.
So just for the record, we're not going to allow butters or any members from the public onto the property. It's a liability thing. If, with the snow, if somebody trips and falls, we can't have that. So the town is authorized through the applications to enter the site. That's its own item. And, but yeah, we won't be allowing members of the public. I apologize, but the liability is too great on something like this, especially with the storm coming in. The ground's going to be covered with snow, and there is opportunities for somebody to step on a rock and fall or hurt themselves, and we don't want to be liable for that.
I think also the fact that one of the abutters has given town officials permission to cross his property. I don't think we should have other people crossing his property and setting up another liability. So it will be limited to this committee, and invited guests of this committee, in case the fire chief wants to come or any other town official that would be appropriate. But they will be town officials in some capacity. Okay?
So if we're good for that date, I think we need to schedule a backup date now, again, so the abutters hear it and everybody knows what it is.
Okay, and then it would be when Mr. Aguirre returns.
So you're looking at, the earliest would be the 13th of January.
Okay, I can't do morning. I can do any time from 1 o'clock on.
I am also available
On the
that day.
13th. 1 o'clock on January 13th for a site walk if we don't make it next week. Does that work for everyone?
Yes.
Yep, good with Mr. Fournette. That's a Wednesday. All right, Mr. Pires is okay. I'm okay. Mr. Aguirre is okay.
I'm also.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Rhines,
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Mr. Fasendola.
That'll work, yes.
So now we got to pick a date for our next meeting.
Is a Wednesday okay for you, Tom?
Yeah, Wednesday's pretty good.
How about the 20th? January the 20th at 1 PM here.
Yeah, Monday that week is Martin Luther King Day, but yeah, Tuesday the 20th works for me.
No, Wednesday the 20th.
Oh, sorry, Wednesday the 20th. Yep, Mr. Aguirre is okay? Pires? Pires, Mr. Burnett okay? Mrs. Goulart? Mr. Ferry?
Yes.
Mr. Rhines?
I may possibly be in Washington DC on my birthday, which is the 20th.
I think the planning board input's important at this meeting, so. Well, the Thursday, the 20th, when are you coming back? If you go?
I believe that we're just going to boogie down there and do our thing during the day and drive back the same night, I believe, because I have a planning board meeting at 6 PM that evening also.
So would that Thursday, the 21st be okay? No? Oh, okay.
What about the 14th? Is that too soon?
Well, I have a Board of Health meeting that night and I really hate doubling up.
Okay.
The day before the 13th work for everybody?
The 12th? That's the day Jim gets back from vacation. I wouldn't put that on him. And Tuesdays are right out. I have all my Department of Public Health calls.
Okay. How about Wednesday the 13th, no?
Well, that's where we get our site visit plan. If
Right.
We have a backup site plan.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, that's right.
Sure.
Why can't we meet the same day?
So what the suggestion is that so do you want to eliminate the December sidewalk?
No, I think we should, because of weather, I think if there's a
All right.
chance we can walk it, I think we should walk it.
All right, so the plan is, we will keep the site walk next week. If we don't have it next week, it's scheduled for 1 PM on January the 13th. And after that site walk, we will come back to this building and finish the hearing and whatever else we have on the agenda for the Stormwater Committee. Does that work for everyone?
But if there is no site walk, we'll just have the meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay by me, Mr. Fournette? Mr. Fournette's okay, Mr. Myers is okay, Mr. Aguirre is
fine.
okay,
I am fine,
Mr. Ryan?
Mr. Pilling.
Mr. Ryan, Mr. Barry?
I'm all set.
Yes, I'm fine with that.
So that works pretty well. So then, oh, go ahead.
So while we're talking about things that have to happen or things we have to get clarified, whether it's the planning board hearing this again or site walks and so forth and so on, there was a question raised about who owns the land where the culvert is. And there was talk of an easement. If it's town of Dayton land. So that's got to be resolved, because quite frankly, as a selectman who would have to vote on an easement, I can't see me sitting here as chairman of the Stormwater Committee saying, let's move ahead with this when I don't have an answer to the town property. So, Nick, you must have, there must be a plan showing boundaries and who owns what. Is
Yeah,
that?
I believe this was reviewed during the special permit process, and a driveway modification was made late in the approval process. So the town owns the section where I can put the screen back up. So let me get to a better page here. Zoomed in. So the property line is right here. So the town owns everything in from here. And if you extend this line straight down, that's where the town owns to. And then the abandonment of this road of Audrey's Lane, the project proponent owns to the center line, which is 25 feet. And then the northerly 25 feet is owned by this abutter here. So all the work and disturbance is either within town right of way to provide access to our site, or within our 25 feet of the abandoned right of way.
So the answer to my question is yes, there is town land involved.
Correct, just as any driveway requires the crossing of town land. I don't know the legality. I can check with TJA to see what discussions were had, if an easement was required. I don't believe easements are required for access, but that's something I'd have to follow up with TJA on, and I believe their attorneys would have had that discussion, in 2018.
But I think we're also talking about the easement going the other way so that you can maintain the culvert without us doing it. That's what I think this is discussion.
Oh, okay. Oh, agreed. Yes, if there's an easement to be provided for us to do perpetual maintenance on the structure, then yes, something would have to be developed and approved by the town. That is correct.
Right, and I believe we're all on the same page now. And to answer the chairman's question, I believe since it's just a driveway, it's not just a driveway, but the driveway permit should satisfy what needs to be reviewed, and especially with a new plan that's going to be created for the culvert.
I'll have to follow up with the with TJA and see what discussions were had back during the original time of permitting with this. I apologize, I'm not up to speed on every aspect that was discussed during that time, but that's one of the items I will look into and follow up with the committee on.
Ed?
Yeah, the driveway permit, you broke up a little, but the driveway permit covers the curb cut access off of a public way. What it does not cover is the work that's going to take place in the public way for the installation of the culvert. And as Agent Pilling said, it does not cover the ongoing maintenance that's required for that said culvert in a public way. So that's what needs to be answered. And the selectmen obviously are going to follow through and find out.
Yeah, Nick, if you check with whoever you have to check with, I will check with town council. Mr. Ferry and I have done many easements in town. Town council obviously will weigh in on this, and between what you find out, what may have been discussed or whatever, I will find out from the town side what has to be done, because at a minimum, I would think this has to be voted on by the Board of Selectmen at a minimum. There would have to be paperwork drawn. If it would seem it's a permanent easement, which means it has to be recorded at the Bristol County Registry of Deeds, so on. So there's a lot of detailed red tape. So if you do what you can, and I will check on our end, and we'll get this information together and figure out what's the best way to go.
Sounds good. I appreciate your efforts, and I'll communicate everything I receive and find out with Mr. Pillings.
Okay. Mr. Ferry,
Yes,
does that work for you?
yes, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Pius.
No, I just want
Nick, you can stop sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was on a planning board at the time this originally went through, the special permit. And I'm pretty sure that Mrs. Easterday has some relative information to that area that's in question, except for the culvert, I believe, is on our property. But as far as the Audrey Lane and all of that area, there was a decision by town council at that time about who owned what and where it was going. So I think Mrs. Easterday would be a good resource.
Okay, I'll check to see what Mrs. Easterday has, because I'm still going to take this to town. A first for Mr. Ferry and I, as far as the nature of it and what is happening. So we'll check it out, Nick, and we'll share the information with you so we all know what we're supposed to be doing and doing it correctly. Okay.
Much appreciated. And I'll also follow up with the DPW superintendent and the fire chief or the fire protection officer with regards to the minor driveway modification, just to make sure that everybody's on board with that reduction and get all the proper reviews in place.
Okay, Mr. Pilling?
Laureen has something she'd like to say, one of the abutters.
Yes, Mrs. Beausoleil?
Unmute yourself, please.
Sorry again. Just to clarify, nothing can be done on this property until these issues are taken care of.
Right, until there's a building permit, which the building permit can't happen until after the planning board, conservation, and stormwater committee are done. Then it goes to the building department and then they can start work.
Okay,
So
thank you so much.
minor clarification. I believe we can start site clearing activities, at our own risk.
No.
Only if you stay less than 35,000 square feet. Once you go over 35,000, you need a stormwater permit.
For site clearing, or, a building permit will be filed.
You can file a building permit, but you need a stormwater permit as soon as you go over 35,000 square feet of disturbance. You do not have a stormwater permit right now. So you can disturb up to 34,999 square feet and then you stop.
Okay. I'm just looking for clarification because I believe that's how Grasshopper was interpreting it, but I will let them know, and just so there's no misunderstanding. So no clearing until all this is resolved. Understood.
Hold on.
Yeah, let's call a time out here, okay? You're going to be bringing vehicles, traffic, trucks, et cetera, in there. So the first thing we should be talking about is what we're going to do with the stormwater runoff from Audrey Lane, because there's going to be construction traffic in and out. So no one's going to do anything there until this committee hashes out what the best way to protect the environment and the abutters are. So until this committee renders a permit with conditions, then we'll talk about doing work there. In the meantime, the only thing that's going to happen is walk the property. That's it.
He agrees.
Any other questions? Okay, so we've got a tentative site walk scheduled for next week. We have a tentative site walk as a backup, and/or we will have a meeting on January the 13th at 1 p.m., even if we don't have that site walk. If we have to have the site walk in January, it will take place at 1 p.m. At the intersection of Brook and Pine, near Mr. Clark's property. And then we will follow up with coming back to Old Town Hall, so that we can take any other action relative to the stormwater permit and anything else that comes up. We all in agreement? Pretty much?
Yep. All right, so would you like me to make a motion?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing until January 13th at 1 p.m. With the site walk being scheduled for December 22nd at 12:30.
Second.
Second, Mr. Burnett.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to take a roll call vote. Start with the people in this hall. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar.
Aye.
Mr. Myers.
Aye.
Mr. Fuller. Aye. Mr. Berry.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Ryan.
Aye.
We're all good to go. Those of you on the Stormwater Committee, we have another hearing coming up, so please stand by.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you for your time. We'll see you on the 22nd, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll talk on the 21st probably and figure it out.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Fournette.
We're more than a little late for our 2 p.m. hearing. However, this next hearing is on Clearway Energy located at 1420 and 1522 William Street. It's another solar project. Is there somebody here from Clearway who wishes to address the Stormwater Committee? If so, please identify yourself.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. My name is Dan Von Allman. I'm the Development Project Manager for the Dighton Solar Project for Clearway Energy. I manage a number of development stage projects in Massachusetts as part of our community solar business. Clearway, if it's not a name that you are familiar with, is the, I believe, largest owner and operator of community solar projects in Massachusetts. We are a long-term holder and operator of these assets. So we're we approach all of these projects as an investment in the community where we are a partner for decades to come, not as a developer coming in and flipping assets. So I wanted to just kind of start with that lay of the land of who we are as a company, and then maybe start with a little bit of background on this project and the other folks that we have on the phone here today.
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Is there anyone else sitting in from Clearway?
Yes, you have Scott Matthews. I'm the construction project manager for this project.
Anybody else?
Yes, I'm Jennifer Sherwood. I'm permitting manager for this project with Clearway.
We also have a few representatives from our engineers and consultants on the line here. Would you like to do introductions of them now as well?
Sit in and possibly provide information or feedback has to be recognized, and our office manager is taking names. So if we could continue with anyone else who is here who wishes to speak from or for Clearway.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. My name is Juliette Kaplinger. I am a project manager with TRC. I recognize some of you. I've been working on this project since I think 2017. So, oh, sorry, Nancy.
Is names and what you do at the company. You will
Oh,
have an
I
opportunity.
apologize. Okay, yeah, I'm the PM. I can introduce Steve Loss is on the phone as well for TRC. He's the engineer. We've also got
hold
Tim.
Hold on. We're trying to do an official record here. We have a whole bunch of names and random numbers on the screen. We want to establish who everybody is and who they're here for. So there's a C. Ryan on here. Who is C. Ryan?
I am with Meridian Associates. We are working with Signal Energy as the construction phase engineers on the project.
So your name is?
Christopher Ryan, sorry.
And we also have a phone number there, 0836. Who are you? Nobody? Anybody know who that number is?
Whoever it is, they're muted right now.
Yeah, the phone number is 732-662-0836. It's not a local number, so I'm assuming it's somebody related to you, to Clearway or TLC. Yeah, if they go to talk, they're gonna have to give their name.
Marissa Castro.
I cannot unmute.
Who is?
She's not muted, so.
Who is Marissa Castro?
She's on the screen, the bottom left.
Marissa Policastro is with Signal Energy.
Scott Sargent.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is Scott Sargent, project manager with Signal Energy. I believe that's Marissa's number. She's not dialed in with her computer there. She's dialed in by phone. So, but she's with Signal Energy also.
Is there anyone else for the project that we haven't identified? Who are the abutters that make? Excuse me?
Yeah, Tim Sullivan.
Tim Sullivan also with TRC. Sorry,
Get closer to the mic.
Tim Sullivan also with TRC.
And Steve, you might want to.
Yeah, just making sure you got me there. Juliet mentioned my name, Steve Loss, TRC civil engineer.
Yep.
So is that everybody who would be speaking or commenting for the developer solar company? I think we've got everybody. If anybody else comes on the line, before they're going to be allowed to speak, they're going to need to identify themselves. Before we introduce the Stormwater Committee, are there any abutters present? And if so, please identify yourself.
Yes, Nancy, Francis Crisafulli, 1730 Wellington Street here in Dayton. Also, disclose I am an associate member of the Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Are there any other abutters present?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
John Rufo, RUFO. I live on 1650 Wellington. That's it.
Anyone else? Okay, I see we still have Maureen and Alan both Soleil.
I don't think they're actually here. I don't think they ended their call. Yeah, I don't think they're actually, because they were on video and they're not there.
Okay. This is an open public meeting. I will now ask the members of the Stormwater Committee to identify themselves. I'll have you do that next. Mr. Aguirre.
Sure. James Aguirre, Building Commissioner, Stormwater Committee member.
Mr. Burnett.
Oh, hold on.
Bill Burnett, Dayton Conservation Commission.
Fires, Board of Health, but just to advise everyone, one of the abutters is a cousin of mine, so I'm going to be recusing myself.
Todd Pelling, Stormwater Agent.
Nancy Goulart, Chairman of this committee and a member of the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Rhines.
Mr. Ferry. Mr.
Tom
Ferry.
Ferry, Stormwater Committee.
Mr. Rhines. Mr. Rhines.
Yes, Timothy Ryan, Chairman of the Planning Board. Somebody's calling.
I would ask you to read the announcement that appeared in the Taunton Gazette on December the 7th, please.
This is a legal notice of a public hearing of the Dayton Stormwater Committee for the Old Town Hall, upper level meeting room, 111 Somerset Ave, Dayton. Notice of public hearing for Wednesday, December 16th, 2020 at 2 p.m. Notice is hereby given the Dayton Stormwater Committee will conduct a public hearing on the stormwater permit application of MACS Dayton LLC, care of Clearwater Energy Group LLC, to construct a large-scale ground-mounted solar energy facility in Dayton, Massachusetts. The array will be located at 1420 William Street, shown as Assessors Map 11, Lot number 9, and 1522 William Street, shown as Assessors Map 11, Lot number 8-01. Copies of the plan are available for review in the Board of Health Office, Old Town Hall, lower level, 1111 Somerset Ave, Dayton. Please call the office to schedule an appointment to view the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
I guess, Rosalind, did we receive the white slips ahead of time?
No, I have not received those yet.
We have not received the white slips to confirm that you notified all the abutters. So we can't start the hearing until we know you've notified all the abutters. Juliet, you were going to email those to us ahead in advance of the meeting?
So we have not received any green cards back yet.
That's why we asked for you to send the white slips. The green cards only says that they received it. We just need to know that you sent it, which is the white slips.
Oh, okay. So I misunderstood. I apologize. Yeah, I have them all right here. I can physically show them to you.
Well, we can't open the hearing until we know you've notified everybody on the list. So you have to send us all those cards and then we can confirm it with the list to make sure they've all been notified. Then we can start the hearing.
Okay, is there any way I can send it to you right now?
Yep, you can scan it and email it. So I suggest we take a recess from the table this until Roz can confirm we've got everything. It's going to take a few minutes.
Okay. Instead of recessing, I would like a motion to temporarily table this issue because I want to get some of the other things we got on the agenda. But I have a motion to table this agenda, this item until later in the meeting, assuming we get the white slips that have been requested. Mr. Burnett has made a motion to table.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to table. There is no discussion.
That was Mr. Aguirre seconding.
Yes. Roll call vote, all in favor of table, Mr. Aguirre?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Mr. Pius, do you wish to abstain? Okay, all right. So you're, Mr. Pius is an abstention? Yes. Mr. Ferry
Aye.
and Mr. Rhines? Mr. Rhines?
Seem to be having some technical difficulty there.
Mr. Rhines?
Yes, I have no questions of the applicants. We heard this case in front of the planning board, and I believe a decision has been written in regards to this. So it should be on record and on file with our office manager, Mrs. Easterday.
I didn't.
Mr. Rhines, could you repeat that? It was kind of garbled at the beginning. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry. I have no questions. I have no questions of the applicants right now at this time. And we did hear their case.
We just had a motion to table this temporarily. We're waiting for.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was muffled. I'm sorry. I will second that motion to table if it's already been done.
Are you in favor of tabling? We got enough votes for it to carry.
Anyone opposed to tabling? Are there any abstentions? Okay. Mr. Rhines, are you there again?
Yes, I am.
We need you to vote on tabling temporarily.
I'm in agreement of tabling temporarily, yes. Aye.
Okay. Right. So what we're going to do, rather than have a recess, because we're waiting for Juliet to email some material to Roz.
But Kim, one second. Juliet, give me the thumbs up when you sent it. And then when Roz is checking the list, I'll be doing the minutes. So we can keep
Yes,
going.
thank you. And that's Todd, right? You're Todd?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Doing it right now.
Okay, the next item, we're going to move on to agenda item 4A, which is an update on the Borrego Solar Project. Who would like to give that update?
We haven't heard anything. Yeah, since the last meeting, we have heard nothing from anybody out there. Nobody's asked us to go out to do anything. We haven't seen that they've been doing any work, so all is quiet.
Okay, we will have a follow-up visit on that one when it's up and running, I assume. We talked about that. Okay. So for the minutes, we'll just move this to the next agenda to see if we have any updates or any info regarding Borrego.
Okay.
Agenda item 4B, an update on the Strawberry Fields development. I know the zoning board approved the permit. Is that now with conservation, Mr. Burnett? Okay, so you're still working on Strawberry Fields? Okay, all right. So again, that'll be an update at a future meeting.
Yeah, I believe they did get a review letter from Beta, and they're still going through their process.
Okay, so this will just be another update item in the future. Agenda item 4C, update on the Audubon bylaw review. Which one, Audubon? There is a motion to table agenda item 4C, update on the Audubon bylaw review. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second to table. All those in favor say aye. Roll call. Mr. Aguirre. Aye. Billy.
Aye.
Burnett.
Aye.
Pius.
Aye.
Shula. Aye. Mr. Perry.
Aye.
And Mr. Rhines.
Aye.
Thank you. Agenda item 4D. Review, discuss, act, status of subdivision stormwater structure inventory.
Yes, this is Jim Aguirre. I have a draft form. I'm going to send it to Tom Ferry's administrative assistant. Tom has offered her services to put it in a spreadsheet format. So I thought it would be good to have her work on that while I were away. And then once she gets that in that format, we'll bring it to the committee for discussion.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments, questions? If not, we will move on to agenda item 4E, update on Bristol County Agricultural High School. Mr. Agia.
Yes, hello, everyone. So the project is progressing. They have pushed back their occupancy date for one of the buildings to, I believe, January 15th. They originally intended on occupying one of the buildings just at the turn of the new year, but it's been pushed back 2 weeks for obvious reasons. There's quite a bit going on. The punch list was much too long. And although Gilbane is doing a fine job, they were a bit aggressive on their occupancy deadline. So that's just pushed things out 2 weeks, which is good. I'll be back at that time. Other than that, the project seems to be going well. I did notice some siltation runoff from the recent storm we had, but I know Agent Pilling has been in constant communication with them, and they have been responsive when we do have runoff in cleaning it up right away. We did have one minor setback with the project where some work was done without permits. My electrical inspector was asked to energize the crosswalk lighting. It was put in without permits or inspections. So we, as a department, made them correct the deficiencies, and all is well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agia. Mr. Pilling, do you have anything?
Mrs. Grassi's going through the list now. No, I have nothing more to add. Again, like Jim said, anytime that there's been mud in the road, we call them to take care of it. And they've been cooperative. I've been by there several times to look at erosion control and the rest, and everything's been good.
Okay. I can tell you that the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen took a tour of the facility with the Superintendent Director, Mrs. Sands, and the project manager, and covered both sides of the road, very impressed with what's going on. Progress has been remarkable. The other thing I will mention is that while we were there, Dave and Mrs. Sands pointed out the new location of a utility pole, and that went to the Board of Selectmen. That was Wednesday night. It was Wednesday during the day. We had toured the Aggie School, and Wednesday that night, the Board of Selectmen voted approval of the relocation or new location of a particular pole on Center Street at that project. So from the town perspective, Board of Selectmen, everything was excellent when we were there. So glad to hear everything's moving along. Agenda item 5, new business. A, develop a standard format for the planning/zoning boards to inform the Stormwater Committee and make them aware prior to roadway acceptance. Mr. Agia.
So I wanted to bring into discussion with the full committee. I thought of drafting something and going it alone, but I thought it would be more beneficial because the chairman of the Board of Selectmen has reached out and asked that we start doing our joint meetings again, where we all met collectively, because it seemed like we were able to accomplish a lot during those meetings. Those were meetings that were fully inclusive. We had all members of all committees involved, and it just seems like the dialogue flowed pretty well. So I thought instead of coming up with a directive, and maybe it would be better suited if we brought up what the concerns were at a joint meeting, and then we can discuss it like professionals. I know during the pandemic, it's going to be tough to get us all in the same room. I think it will be impossible to do it. using this venue with the amount of people. So I don't know if we think it's a grave concern that we address it now, or maybe we could address it down the road when the pandemic has released its clutches on us, and we can schedule one of those joint meetings.
Does anyone wish to comment? That works fine with me. As a matter of fact, if it goes long enough, we may be sitting on the bleachers behind Town Hall. That's the problem. Venue we would have on a sunny day, that if we can't meet inside a building, we may be doing that.
At the last one of the, probably the one and only, no, we had two, I believe.
Yes.
Was it resolved that in order for roadways to be accepted, that they be built to the town standards, I believe?
Yes, it was. It was, and to my knowledge, both the planning board and the zoning board were gonna work to make sure that the roadways met the minimum standards. And I believe Highway Superintendent Ferry had some input on it as far as site inspections and so forth to make sure it was actually built to the town standards. So as far as I know, I think because of the timing, Strawberry Fields may be the only one that happened after that meeting that went from start to finish. The other ones were already in process. If I'm wrong, correct me, but so it's my understanding that that standard was put in place for the Strawberry Fields project.
May I suggest that in the interim, and what you'll have, Jim, is a great idea. I think that's where it should be accomplished. Just send them a simple memo to the two boards and to advise them that going forward, that if they would just advise us of any road acceptance coming down the pipe within like 90 days or 60 days or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with that. And Chairman Goulart is right. We may be meeting on the bleachers, which probably won't be a bad idea.
No, no.
So I guess I should make that a motion.
Yes, do you want to restate your motion,
Sure.
Mr. Pius?
Hold on.
Stormwater Committee send notification in the form of a memo to the planning board and zoning board that they inform going forward until further notice, they inform the Stormwater Committee to make them aware prior to roadway acceptance.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Aguirre. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Mr. Aguirre?
Aye.
Billy?
Aye.
Burnett?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Mr. Berry?
Aye.
And Mr. Rhines?
Aye.
Thank you. Agenda item 5C, stormwater messages, septic systems, and dog owners. I think Mrs. Grassy was working on it.
That's not 5B, Madam Chair.
Yeah, 5B is fortification of stormwater.
Oh, I'm sorry. I put a check mark in the wrong place. Back up. Agenda item 5B, discuss fortification of stormwater infrastructure. Does anybody have anything on this, or should we?
So this was on here because of putting up some things, because we have some underground drainage structures in town to try and protect them. Today's probably not the time to get us started on that kind of discussion.
Okay.
So I would make a motion that we table that. Or table, continue it, table it to the next meeting. Yeah.
We have a motion and a second to table agenda item 5B, discuss fortification of stormwater infrastructure to the next meeting. All those in favor, Mr. Aguirre.
Aye.
Mr. Pilling.
Aye.
Burnett.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Mr. Rhines.
Aye.
And Mr. Ferry.
Aye.
Thank you. Agenda
Sorry
item
about
5. Stormwater messages, septic systems, dog owners. This is something that came up at a previous meeting. We need to do something to meet some conditions in our MS4, NOI, every other acronym you can think of. I know that Mrs. Grassi was working on this, and since she can't be physically present, I'm suggesting we move this.
Well, she is here, but I'll tell you that since Stormwater falls under the Board of Health, we've been doing nothing but contact tracing for COVID over the last few weeks. And we have had like almost no time to deal with regular job, never mind throwing a public hearing for a stormwater facility. So we haven't worked on it.
Could I get a motion that we move stormwater messages to a future agenda, please?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was Mr. Rhines. The second is Mr. Pyers. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call. Mr. Aguirre. Myers.
Oh, you're gonna be like that, are you?
Mr.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Hi, Mr. Rhines.
Aye.
The camera and the minutes?
And Mr. Ferry.
Aye.
That's why you have this job. Correspondence, I don't believe we have any, do we? I don't have any. No correspondence. Mrs. Grassi, was there any correspondence that you remember? No correspondence. Is there any public input other than the solar farm that we're waiting on? Any public input relative to stormwater issues? All right, hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 15th, which was the regular meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Rhines. Is there a second? Burnett seconded. All those in favor, roll call vote.
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre. Aye. Mr. Burnett.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Rhines.
Aye.
And Mr. Berry.
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the site walk that was conducted on October 21st.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Rhines. Is there a second? We have a second from Mr. Burnett.
Who was the first?
Mr. Rhines.
Sorry.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Pilling.
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre. Aye. Burnett.
Aye.
Myers.
I'm going to abstain. I believe I was absent at that one.
Mrs. Goulart votes aye. Mr. Rhines.
Aye.
And Mr. Berry.
Aye.
Are there any noes? Abstentions?
Tom Byers was an extension.
Thank you. I don't believe the minutes for November 4th are ready.
I don't believe she can.
Okay, all right, so those minutes will be submitted to the committee for review and then eventually placed on a future agenda. No, wait a minute. Mrs. Grassi, have you received all of the slips you were looking for? Okay, I'm going to declare recess for 10 minutes. Okay, so folks, if you want to hang around for a bit, don't sign off. We've got to check to make sure we have those receipts. If we don't have all the receipts, then we're going to have to reschedule. So bear with us for the next 10 minutes, please. Can you take this offline?
Recording now?
Yes.
Now recording.
Okay, we're back in session again.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bill Karen, appreciate it. Both the president and the president-elect.
All for everybody to see. And every now and then it decides to kick us out. Sorry.
The virus.
Guys, don't stress about it. Don't fret. Just go for it.
What's for the sound? See? From this?
Just turn it up. Yeah, we can hear it. This is getting painful. I don't mind long meetings where we accomplish things.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yep, you're getting head nod.
Okay. We've shut the TV off because we keep getting interference. What we thought was going to be 15 minutes has turned into almost half an hour. We were able to finish the rest of the items on our agenda. Before we go any further, I want to make something clear to everybody. First of all, I'm going to ask for a motion to continue this hearing. And
So
I will
moved.
tell you that before this hearing is rescheduled, again, every piece of paper or document or plan or anything else that is supposed to be in the Board of Health office and in the custody of Mr. Pilling is here on site. There will be no meeting until I'm assured everything that was supposed to be here was here. I want to point out, I've got two people here directly connected to contact tracing. They've been held up here trying to get this hearing off the ground. I'm a selectman. I got a meeting tonight. I've got to get to the building next door. There isn't going to be any more time wasted today. Does anyone on the committee wish to speak?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, can we do a site walk though? I mean, I see no reason why we couldn't do a site walk. We had to formally open the hearing, read the public notice. We have to open the hearing. But yes, I think we can continue for a site walk because we haven't even read the public notice yet, so. Because we were going to do the same thing with them as Brook Street.
No, you read the hearing, you read the
I
notice.
did?
that
Oh,
was
yeah, I
in the
did.
paper.
I did.
Yes.
But I'm assuming we're going to do a site walk with this one like we did with Brook Street. So
So what are you proposing for a date for a site walk?
we want to try and do it the same day.
December 22nd?
Yeah.
Well, then we have the backup, right? So December 22nd, and then we have January 13th as our backup or the public hearing continuance if we get to that point. Now, I will say more about us here that would like to speak to. So
Okay, what are you proposing for the time? We got 12:30 at Brook Street.
you need at least an hour on Brook Street. So you're talking 2 o'clock.
Who's still with us?
We still have
We need a quorum.
Nancy,
Well, we don't need a
me,
quorum, but I'd like to throw them up to the members of the meeting.
Jim. Tim Rhines is still here. Tom Ferry is not. So we have a quorum because he can't vote. So we got 1, 2, 3, and Tim
I'd
is.
like the other Stormwater Committee members to be included in the sidewalk.
Oh, absolutely. So we're missing 2, Bill and
If
Tom.
they're available for the first one, they should probably be available.
Mr. Perry did say he was open in the afternoon.
He did.
Okay, so would somebody make a motion that we, first of all, before we do that, Mr. Van Almen, can you make a site walk on December 22nd at 2 p.m.?
Yes.
Where will we be meeting? What's the easiest access to the property?
The parking lot at the Arroyo Farms Nursery.
Rougeau.
We don't have a royal farm tonight, so.
Is it Arroyo Farms? Is that how you pronounce it?
Rougeau.
Okay, I've been mispronouncing it for a year and a half now. I apologize.
We can meet in the parking lot, and then we can probably drive in from there.
Yes.
Wait, but if we all park in the parking lot, we can jump in one vehicle from there.
Well, you'd actually have to walk back there because there is nowhere to drive.
Yeah, okay.
All right. This will be contingent on confirming.
And I will have my site management there as well as representatives from Signal as well to walk the site with you and show you everything. Unfortunately, I will not be available because I'll be back in Scottsdale. I'm just here Monday through, I'll be leaving town on Friday.
So that being said, if 2 o'clock on the 22nd is fine, I would still aim for the 13th, the same day as the Brook Street Solar, to do them right after. If it's a public hearing, it's a public hearing. If it's a site walk that had to get postponed, it's a site walk.
All right.
Yes.
With the understanding that everything we need documentation wise is here.
I'm not doing a sidewalk unless this now is clear.
So I will say all the plans are here, and the
Correct.
stormwater report is here. The white slips just came in now for us to confirm the abutters, but the rest of the information is. However, I'm going to make it very clear. The planning board reviewed this for compliance with the planning board regs, and the conservation reviewed it for compliance with the conservation regs. Nobody reviewed it for drainage calculations to make sure the drainage calculations work. That's why Stormwater Committee exists. So I started looking through them. I have some comments, but I'm not done reviewing the plans yet because 8 hours a day is spent on COVID, and I try and find time to do this plan review after that. So it's really hard right now, and it's the week before Christmas. It's been really difficult. So I expect by the site walk, I will have some comments, and obviously by the 13th, I'll have them all done. I may have them all done by the site walk, but I think I need to see some things on the site before I can complete my review.
All right, just to reiterate, December 22nd, 2 p.m. at Arujo's Garden Center on William Street. We will have a site walk, assuming that weather permits it. And this will be following the site walk for the other farm on Brook Street. If we are not able to have that site walk on the 22nd, our fallback date is the 13th of January. So a 1 p.m. Brook Street would make it what, 2:30 at Arujo's?
2:30. Is 2:30 on the 13th acceptable?
Yes.
As a backup.
Yes, as a backup.
If we do the site walk, it would be when the public hearing is continued.
Yes, yes.
So that works. Would you, depending upon, I know, Mrs. Grassi, when you post the site walk for next week, would you call Arujo's and let them know we're planning to do a site walk? Maybe we could park in that little parking lot that's off to the right. Looks like their overflow parking lot, because it's going to be busier.
Go to the one to the left. Yeah, ask Arujo's where they want us to park.
Yeah, wherever, just so as a courtesy, because it's going to be crazy up there.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really busy at Arujo's 3 days before Christmas. So.
Yes, but they're not doing a whole lot of their typical holiday stuff. But yes, I agree with that.
So we just want to find out where we should be parking. We'll contact them. So.
Yeah, behind the wall is what we're talking about parking.
Behind the wall.
If you're looking, you're driving in to the right.
We need to park where the Arujo's tell us we can park.
Yes,
Over
yes.
Sunday. Thank you. So the other thing will be, if neither site walk can take place, there will be a meeting posted for this building at 1 o'clock on the 13th of January, and hopefully we will resume the hearings for both solar projects that were on the agenda today.
That's the
Does that
plan.
work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I will take a motion to.
Well, say there are abutters here. I don't know if you want to listen to them.
We'll
You
do
just
it
want to
under
continue them.
discussion.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to continue this hearing.
I'll move to continue this hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Thank you. All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue the hearing. Potential site walk on the 22nd of December or January the 13th, with the hearing continued on the 13th of January, if all documentation that has been requested, and I do mean all, has been received, and I have confirmation from the Board of Health, it's here. We're not gonna have another dragged out whatever looking for papers. That's not why we are here. Discussion, do any of the abutters wish to speak at this time?
Yeah, Madam Chairwoman, this is Francis Crisafulli, 1730 Wellington Street. And again, I'm also an associate member of the Concom. I'm probably the closest abutter, from a house perspective. And I have concerns with actually a lot of things in terms of stormwater. So my well is in very close proximity to the property line. So I'm certainly concerned with the health of my well. And I wanted to, first of all, understand the original applicants for this project was Forefront Power. And I'd like to understand the relationship that Clearway Energy has, that apparently now owns this project.
We purchased the project from Forefront Power.
Okay, understood.
And as far as with your well, if I can just ask a couple of quick questions, is the well's on your property line within your easement, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because we have a restriction where there will be a buffer of tree line for 150 feet from our area
to the property line. Understood. I'm just concerned, we have potential issue with siltation runoff. That area is still actively farmed. There's typical use of phosphates, nitrogen, potassium applicable to the farming of pumpkins, which is a primary crop on that property. So certainly concerned with the health of my well. Want to understand, what your pre and post condition monitoring expectations are, from a stormwater runoff. This is also an ecologically sensitive area. This property abuts and the Coles River, the headwater of the Coles River, which is part of the public water supply, is adjacent to the property. And in this particular instance, we're talking upland areas. The Coles River is downgrade, and I would have concerns, with any applicable runoff. And I'd also like to understand, has the Army Corps of Engineers been consulted, because they do have governance on that area where the Coles River crosses back and forth underneath Wellington Street, and have had in the past have voiced their opinion, basically when my property was being constructed, they were very much involved in river crossing, driveway drainage, so on and so forth. I also do want to disclose that I do have an easement in my deed to drain water on the adjacent properties. And I want to understand, if there's any changes and any maleffects as a result of the drainage and stormwater facilitation.
You want me to?
Mr. Van Allen and members of your team, now that you know what Mr. Crisafulli's concerns are, I would suggest you be prepared to address all of these at the continued hearing, as will members of the Stormwater Committee, if may be applicable. I'm sorry to have to push this, but as I said, I got a Board of Selectmen meeting in about 2 hours. I haven't even seen the agenda yet, and we've got COVID calls to make. So,
Madam Chairwoman, if I could, one other thing, this kind of, it's kind of been a theme throughout the day, on this meetings. I'd like to make a recommendation that the town consider the utilization of electronic plans. We're in COVID situation. I was unfortunately unable to go to town hall in person. And I think, from a high level perspective across all the boards, planning, zoning, conservation, stormwater, I think the town should be thinking about modernization in the utilization of electronic plans and the ability to easily distribute them, to abutters, given the current circumstances that we're in with the pandemic.
Yeah, so the Board of Health was in the process of getting our files in order so that we could scan them all in so that we can go electronic. Obviously, we've been kind of held up by completing that. We hadn't asked for PDF sets because sometimes with these plan sets, they're so big and cumbersome that it's just easier to see them on paper instead of on PDF. But at this point, we can ask the applicant to submit. I don't think we need all of the sheets necessarily PDF, but we definitely need the stormwater and grading sheets and the detail sheets as PDF. And then obviously we can forward them to you because we have your email address and we can forward them along.
Perfect. And I would offer, my property, if you're just purely concerned with the stormwater retention area, or if you're concerned with stormwater across the complete site, accessing the site, may make better sense through my property because the retention pond in that area is basically adjacent to, the back of my home.
And we want to see your well too and its proximity. So are you therefore giving us permission for the 2 o'clock on the 22nd and 2:30 the 13th?
I am.
Your property. All right, thank you.
The other thing I would add, and most of the folks here in town are aware, it is currently deer season. That property is heavily hunted, and I would highly recommend, if you're walking through there, there's been someone shot on that property before. I would highly recommend that you wear orange and protect yourself and be aware, especially around that time, which is, active time for deer to be moving around.
Tom Ferry's gonna pass out high vis vests for some and antlers for others. I don't know what
Excellent, excellent.
Is there any other abutters who wish to speak?
I don't. John Rufo is in a butter, I believe.
Mr. Rufo, did you wish to speak?
No, thank you. I'm fine.
Okay, anyone?
Oh, I do have one question. So when you walk, when you do the site visit, can abutters join you, or is that out of the question?
I'm going to advise against it simply because of the response from the previous developer. It's a liability for the property owner and for the company. So I would say no.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Anybody from the development team that would like to speak before we take a vote?
A couple.
Go ahead, Juliet.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, first of all, I just want to apologize on not getting those white slips in. That's definitely my fault. I very much apologize on that. Did you say you did get them though, all?
Well, we haven't opened the third email yet.
Okay, we can talk later about that. Second of all, Frank, I wanted to thank you for your comments. I remember you from a couple years ago. It's good to see you, and I'm glad you're on the ConsCom.
Yeah,
I'm actually on my town's ConsCom too. So that's cool. And then third of all, can we just confirm the dates just so that we're all on the same page? I have the 22nd at 2 p.m. for the site walk, as long as the weather is good. If not, it will be pushed to January 13th. I think we also said 2:30. What time was it?
2:30.
2:30, okay. And is there going to be a hearing? Or will we do the hearing during the site walk, or how?
No. Since we've got two site walks.
Yeah.
Potentially on either of those days, the site walks will take place, and then the committee will return to the old town hall, and we will take up the
as time permits.
The continued hearing for Brook Street, and when we finish that one, we'll take up yours.
Presumably, if we don't get back from your site walk till 4 o'clock, all we're going to do is schedule a date for the next meeting, most likely. I don't think we're going to have much discussion.
If it runs too late, yes, we will. That's right.
Oh, okay. And then could we assume if we do the site walks on the 22nd, there isn't time to discuss this project, that the hearing to discuss this project would be on the 13th?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That's great. Thank you so much. That was it.
Does anybody else wish to speak from the developer?
Hi, this is Dan Von Allman again. I just wanted to echo the apology for the logistics today. It's certainly not our intent to waste the time of this committee. I know that we are in extenuating circumstances right now, and that you guys are tasked with a lot that is not stormwater. And so our sincere apologies for looking forward to having everything together and having a productive discussion the next time we get together. So.
I'm going to call a vote now on continuing the hearings and going with the scheduled site visits, depending on the weather. So all those in favor, Mr. Aguirre? Aye. Philip?
Aye.
Mrs. Goulart? Aye. Ryan?
Aye.
That's all we have.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Abstentions?
I abstain.
So the motion passes.
Tom Pires abstained.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
All right, thank you all. We'll be in touch on the 21st to discuss the 22nd.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Thank you, Pod. Thank you.
All right, have a good
Is
day.
there a second? We have a motion.
Second.
Adjourn. All those in favor, Mr. Aguirre?
Aye.
Mr. Pires?
Aye.
Mr. Pilling?
Aye.
Mrs. Goulart? Aye. Mr. Rhines?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. See you next week. I hope. Thank you.